Three Demons Book 2, Chapter 32, Unwanted Allies. As the unforgiving desert raged on, a rough-looking man, middle-aged in appearance, brown hair with gray stripes, tied up, brown eyes with his left eye scarred, an unkempt beard, continued to traverse through the desert, each step feeling more grueling than the last. The coldness of the night almost too much to bear, however he continued to press on, driven by a singular goal. In the desolation of the desert he felt a nearby presence, all too familiar to him. It was almost as if they didn't care about hiding or being caught. The man turned around to confront the presence. "I know you're out there. Show yourself. It's pointless otherwise." A cocky, arrogant voice responded, "Well, well, how disappointing. I was hoping to kill you without the trouble. Oh well, you'll still end up dead." The presence was that of a fallen angel. A brown trench coat, no shirt revealing a toned body, along with baggy cargo pants, blonde hair, and brown eyes dark enough to almost camouflage his pupils. The man didn't waste his time with the fallen angel's words. "I know why you're here. You want my fragment to Excalibur, don't you?" Yeltzer's eyes narrowed at the fallen angel as he spoke to him. The fallen angel grinned. "Aren't you the perceptive one? They were right about you. You really are sharp." The man put his hand on his weapon, a revolver with red wrappings around the grip. "Well, I can guarantee you're never going to get your hands on it." The two stood their ground, ready to clash with one another in the cold night. Under the moonlit desert sky, the two faced off, their tension palpable. The night was quiet, eerie even, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The fallen angel was the first to make a move, rushing into battle as he unleashed a series of unrelenting strikes, his movements calculated. Yet there was a hint of pride behind his moves. He felt as if the man was no challenge to him. The man was quick on the draw, however, pulling out his revolver and aiming it at the fallen angel as he proceeded to dodge and weave through his attacks. The man fired off his revolver as sounds of loud echoes of gunfire could be heard. However, the fallen angel was able to just barely dodge the bullet, only receiving a cut on his right cheek, where blood was starting to slowly flow from. The fallen angel then smirked, catching the man off guard as light began to shine from the fallen's hand. The fallen then proceeded to look up before firing a ray of holy energy at the man, sending him flying. However, he was able to catch himself without serious injuries. The fallen seemingly became faster as his strikes are connecting, throwing the man around like a rag doll, preventing him from being even able to make a shot from his revolver. The gap in power between them was becoming evident. The man's body continued to take serious damage, and the sweat on his brow began mixing with the grit of the desert sand as it dripped from his forehead. The beatdown continued to rage on, and the man started to become desperate. With his last reserves of energy he had, his revolver began to glow in holy energy as it auto-aimed at the fallen angel. He unleashed a barrage of several holy energy-infused shots at the fallen, each striking a different point on his body, his arms, legs, torso, and finally his head. The final shot almost made its target. However, the fallen was able to maneuver his body to where he took the shot in his back, the bullet piercing all the way through and landing in the sand beneath. The fight had taken its toll on the man. His breathing became heavier as he fell down to one knee. The fallen quickly got back up on his feet. Rage filled in his eyes as he rushed at the man. He moved his arm forward as the sleeve of his coat began to rustle around aggressively. Suddenly, as the fallen approached him, something that the man wasn't able to identify cut deep into him, the feeling as if it was trying to rip his organs out from his chest as blood flew into the air from his chest. The man fell down onto the ground as whatever came out of the fallen's coat had retreated back within it. Blood started to soak into the sand and dye it red. The fallen walked over the man's body and kicked him over onto his back. The fallen smirked. "Even if you didn't stand a chance, I'll give it to you, that you might have been able to win against some of my comrades. Just not me, that is." He went down to grab the revolver from the man's limp hands. But in a last-ditch effort, the man's unconscious body reacted instinctively, firing a single shot at the fallen. The bullet whizzed through the air, narrowly missing the fallen angel as he twisted his body to evade it. The fallen scoffed at the turn of events, but then sensed that something was amiss. He felt the presence of several individuals approaching him from the shadows. With a sly grin, he spoke. "There's no point in getting in another conflict right now. Plus, if what I feel is true, they've got 3 fragments on them. Lord Brachial would be pleased if I were to gather them together." As the man's vision went dark, he held on to the hope that his final warning shot had served its purpose. Several days later, the man had woken up in a room he was unfamiliar with, his breathing still heavy. An elderly man with kind blue eyes and a white beard sat next to him. Well, you took quite a beating out there. If you weren't brought here, I doubt you would have survived. They call me Dr. Kirby. From your records, it seems your name is Yeltsin Colt, right? Dr. Kirby informed Yeltsin, leaving him still confused as to how he got there. How did I get here, Doc? Yeltsin asked. Several folks say they found you unconscious out there in the desert, so they picked you up and brought you here to this town. Thankfully, I was awake to treat your injuries. The doctor answered Yeltsin honestly, not a hint of deceit was in his voice. Yeltsin, unsure of how to react to the news, began to try to sit up from the bed. As he did, a woman with long brown hair, green eyes, and glasses entered the room, her presence alone bringing a sense of dread and hatred to Yeltsin. Hey, Rhea, is that guy up yet? Another man walked up, black hair and red eyes, a plain black attire he was dressed in. Joseph, dear, it's rude to keep asking, Rhea told him in a slight scolding manner. Ah, but Rhea, I'm bored. Benji isn't here to keep me company. Joseph whined loudly as Dr. Kirby laughed at the exchange. Yeltsin abruptly got up from the bed, disregarding Dr. Kirby's protests to rest. He needed answers, and he wasn't about to trust this group of individuals he could automatically assume saved him. Yeltsin brushed by Rhea and Joseph as he did, Joseph couldn't help but to insert a quip. Are you sure the bed isn't on the wrong side? Because it seems like someone woke up on it wrong. You really stretched for that one, Jake quipped at Joseph. Oh, I'd love to see the two of you do any better, Joseph responded angrily. As Yeltsin exited the room into a new, his gaze swept across the room, and he noticed the unfamiliar presence within three separate locations. One was a makeshift box sitting in the corner, another was a blue bird sitting on top of the box, and another that was that of something within a bag of a girl with short brown hair looking down at a book. Their presence puzzled him, and he couldn't help but feel uneasy around them, as it was something he hadn't felt before. Outside of Ivy and Zyla, he sensed the presence of demons within the rest of the group. As he made his way towards the exit, Zyla stood up and stopped him, her expression determined. We need to talk, Zyla said, her voice firm. Yeltsin glanced at her with suspicion, his eyes filled with distrust. His response was nothing but blunt. I have no reason to speak to a bunch of demons, even those who associate with them. His eyes narrowed as he looked at Zyla. As Zyla became frustrated with his words, Ivy stepped in and tried to defuse the situation. We're not here to cause trouble, mister. But Yeltsin's patience had run thin. He couldn't bear the thought of being surrounded by individuals he didn't trust. I don't want anything to do with any of you, he screamed at Ivy, which caused her to jump. Alter switched to Randy. Randy walked over to Yeltsin, his demeanor calm as he glared at him. You're not going to scream at us. Do you understand? Randy and Yeltsin then began glaring at one another. Randy, that's enough. This is only going to make things worse. Rhea began to intervene as Dr. Kirby began to do the same. Yeltsin, you should be grateful to these people. Yes, they might be demons, but they saved your life. They asked nothing in return. Didn't your parents ever teach you to judge people based off their actions? Kirby reminded Yeltsin that it was those very same demons that had saved his life. Yeltsin gritted his teeth as he glared at the Gabrielle company, his gaze sweeping across each of them. End of chapter 32.